Welcome to Simply Sarah, this special, and here is our featured guest, the one that we've all been waiting for. Jason, I am just not that good at introducing people and would love for you, taking a page out of your book, would love for you to introduce yourself, just so pleased that you're here.
That's funny. You used my own thing against me, didn't you?
I did.
I like that. That's pretty cool. Well, yeah, the short story of everything is Jason Miller. That's my name. I am a serial business owner. I love business. I'm in love with it. I spent 23 years in the military. I was raised in that entrepreneurial spirit.
Yes.
Continued that on while I served in the military. And now I have 18 companies now. That's kind of the overview. It's pretty short and sweet.
That is the short and sweet. And just for entrepreneurs that are out there, there are some who absolutely believe that you need to go to some kind of education in order to figure it out. And other people who say, do it however you need to, but just get in there and do it. What was your way into entrepreneurship?
Jump off the cliff and build wings on the way down.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that. So speaking of entrepreneurs, were there people in your life when you were growing up who influenced you, who were entrepreneurs themselves, and that gave you a taste for what you're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, to say any of us ever get there on our own, it's not even possible, right? I mean, we can never reach any type of pinnacle without the help of other people, whether that's somebody to just bang ideas off of, whether that's a mentor, whether that's a board, whatever it is, right? We all have to have people in our lives that we can, bounce those ideas off of and be able to, I call it, get that unfiltered opinion. You need people around you that aren't afraid to go, dude, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever
heard. So what I hear you saying is that you are able to talk out what you are thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And, I talk a lot. I absolutely talk a lot, 100%.
Being a classroom teacher, I noticed that there were those who processed information by being quiet. And so we thought of them as being more introverts, and those who are talking to process information. Do you find yourself talking out loud to process information, or are you more in that space that you have it figured out and you are sharing?
No, I have to talk things out. That's very much the way I am. Especially process things.
Yes.
I have to be I'm not a book person. So you ask me to read a book and implement it, it's not going to happen, right? I love to write and read, but the thing is I don't comprehend very well. So I have to I have to read something like 2 or 3 times for me to get it through my thick skull. And that's oftentimes not all that much fun, but right. So I'm more of a video guy. I watch video based things, and that's how I learn. And then I learn by doing, or as my dad said, yep, you're going to be that kid that learns by peeing on the fence.
And knowing a little bit of your story, that you grew up at least around farmers in Montana, that there were fences that were charged and then those that weren't, right? That there were ones that were just wooden, just standing there, and then other ones that were would give you a little bit of a conversation back.
Right. Well, that's for another conversation.
Absolutely. So in this place, did you find young that you had people that you could trust, that you could talk to kind of process what you were thinking? Or was this something more of the lines of, I just am going to do this, and it doesn't matter if I have people who support me or not?
Right. Actually, no, not when I kind of first got started, but I took what my parents really, had done, and they didn't do it all right either by any means. But I learned through that experience, and then I kind of had to just take those arrows in the back
Mm,
and try to figure it out. And I didn't really know to leverage at the time how I could leverage mentors, right?
mm,
And
right.
then when I found that, it was game on then.
So, in your leveraging of mentors, what are some of the lessons that you have learned or takeaway pieces for you in that? And how, because some people are just afraid to ask other people, afraid that they're going to be seen as being somebody who is taking
Mm-hmm.
rather than allowing other people their gift of influence and encouragement and foresight.
Right. Well, so the thing you have to be careful, I call it criminal exchange, right?
Mhm.
So you can't create criminal exchange between anybody. Nothing in this world is free, right?
True.
And if I have a problem and I've found somebody to solve that problem, I have no problems paying for it, right?
Right.
And that's something I would impress upon people is don't be cheap and think, well, I got this friend, he runs businesses, he does all this kind of stuff, and then you're the time sucking vampire, right?
Yeah.
That just sucks all the life out of people. No, nobody wants to be around that kind of person, right?
Right.
Pay for pay for solutions, pay
Mhm.
for shortcuts. Find that person that is right for you, that you can pay that person to help you, whether that's a coach, a consultant, name, whatever, right? But find that person that's right for you. Because, like me as a consultant, I'm not right for everybody.
Mm.
Why? I'm raw. I don't pull any punches.
Yeah.
I'm not the guy to hold a tissue, and
Mhm.
I am not going to buy you a steak dinner. So, and
All admirable things.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's why there's certain people that love to work with me, and
Mhm.
those are the people I want to work with anyway. So
Absolutely.
go find that person that
Mhm.
is right for you, and that's the key. If you get that part right, then
Yes.
you got it. You got it down.
And Jason, one of the things that I have been taking away from our conversations has also been the timing of all of it. Find the
Mm-hmm.
person who's right for you right now. So look at your bank, look at your cash flow, look at all the different pieces that are going on, and then realize that what you are investing in is into your future. And so
Right.
just, some people take out loans to go to college or loans to buy fancy cars or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually, I think, one of the most amazing things that you can do is to invest in yourself, into your own future, and make those decisions. And so find the person who's right for you for right now. And that person might
Mm-hmm.
be the right person for you 10 years from now as well. Who knows? We can't see the future, but we can sure impress on the future the direction that we want to go.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is find somebody that's willing to meet you where you are today, right?
Yes. Yes.
Not where they want you to be.
Mhm.
Find somebody that can be that person for you, that is willing to meet you today where you are, and
Mhm.
then help you get where you want to go, not where they want you to go.
Oh, that is so powerful. That whole
Yeah.
space of agency, right?
Mm-hmm.
That
That's
the
right.
vision that the person has, the individual who is seeking the encouragement, the mentorship, the secret teachers, the finding the people who are going to be feeding them to move forward. But I would also say don't find somebody who is so willing to let you row your own boat that
Mm-hmm.
you row yourself into a whirlpool because you say about yourself that you're not for everybody because you're raw. There are some people who are just so kind and they're kind-hearted and they might see what's going on but not want to hurt somebody's feelings. And so I think that's another place just to kind of be aware of, be wise, be
Right.
thoughtful, be wise with your investment.
Yeah, and sometimes we gotta remember that. we hire people to come in and have that 20,000 foot view for a reason, right? And then if you're not open to what they have to say, well,
Yeah.
then you're never going to get anywhere, right?
Right.
And I have what's called the golden crowbar. That's
I
what I
love.
have. And
Yes.
I literally took a crowbar from Harbor Freight and I painted it gold. And
Yes.
when some of my clients do things that, they know better than not
Right.
to do them, I
Yeah.
hold up the golden crowbar and I go, here you go. It's your turn. Pop it out of your backside, right? And,
Exactly.
but we all need a little bit of tough love too. And,
Absolutely.
because we live in this world now of this patty cake crap. And I don't think I better go there, but you know what I mean.
I do. I do. I was truly amazed when I heard that the military has my words, pre-boot camp to get people ready so that they can go to boot camp. And I just thought, wow, things have really changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot in a lot of different ways. And so, yes, there needs to be that tough love and the reception for that tough love to realize that it's for
Mm-hmm.
my benefit, for the person's benefit in that place. You've spoken a couple times about the arrow in the back. And so, what advice would you give to somebody to say, take this advice, and this will keep you from having at least one arrow in your back at some point?
Yeah. It's when you have an idea, stay the course on the idea, right?
Mhm.
I see so many young entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
They have an idea, they implement it,
Mhm.
and then they move to the next thing, and then to the next thing, and then to the next thing. And now you got 10 or 20 things going
Right.
because that's what you think you need to do, when
Yes.
it's the absolute opposite, right? Focus on 3 things
Mm.
and bring those 3 things to implementation and then introduce something new, right? But so many they never implement. And I've seen it with, oh my gosh, so many people over the last 10 years.
Mhm.
And then they get themselves in information paralyzation, and all these things start to happen and they get overwhelmed, and then absolutely nothing happens. And I'm not talking about startups either. I'm talking about companies that are already 25, 30 mil plus already.
Right.
So
Right.
let's not just go, oh well, that applies to people that are just starting out.
No.
That's not true.
Did you see during the shutdown, it
Mm-hmm.
impacted the country and the world in different ways, different places, depending on a lot of different pieces to that. But did you find that there were companies that um, had a hard time implementing, that they had really good ideas, but during
Mm-hmm.
that time of empty freeways, that they really struggled to figure out the next step forward? Or was that still business as how you had seen it prior to that?
Well, I think so. We hit this space of, it was this big unknown, right?
Right.
So we're in this big unknown, and it applied across everything. I
Yeah.
mean, it applied across, just how kids and grandparents were able to come together. Just the simplest things, right?
Yes.
Or how you got your groceries. Jesus, we were wiping groceries
We
off with,
were.
I mean, for crying out loud. You look back on it now and it's like, wow, did we do that? Right. And so it was just the dynamic of that time. And business was as usual. The thing is that people were just so afraid
Mhm.
that, the big balloon was going to happen or something. So then they started pulling their budgets back in.
Mhm.
And the first thing that went was marketing, right?
Right.
It's the first thing they pulled back in was marketing. Well, that's okay if something's going to be for 3 or 6 months, but now your customer base is churning and churning and churning and churning and
Right.
churning. And
Yes.
now all of a sudden, 6 months later, You cut your pipeline off 6 months ago, and
Yeah.
now you don't have customers, and now you're dead. And it had nothing to do with ideating for new ideas or stuff like
Mhm.
that. We had to do a lot of that, right? I think I
Right.
told you the toilet paper and margarita
Yes.
story.
It's a great story.
Yeah, and but they just cut the wrong things out,
Mhm.
and that's why a lot of these companies got choked off and died, was
Yeah.
because of that. It's pretty simple.
Your margarita and toilet paper story is so unique. I would love for you to share it.
Yeah, okay. So there was a little restaurant out in New York, and they had called and they said, "Look, we're just going to have to close up because we really don't know what to do." And this was the time during the pandemic where everybody was just cleaning the shelves off, and all that stuff. And I I just remember saying, "Look, why don't we be creative? Let's just try it and see what happens." So let's just give away a roll of toilet paper, a margarita, and do curbside pickup. And we'll come to find out they had like 500 rolls of toilet paper in
They
the
were ready to
back.
go.
So it just, the timing of that whole thing. I don't even call that a strategy. That was just like a whip it together thing, right? And but it was just a shot in the dark, and it's like,
Mhm.
let's try it. But now looking back on that, it was perfect for the time,
It
right?
was.
It
Yes.
it hit perfect when it hit.
Yes.
And it's what really did save them, for sure.
Incredible.
Yeah. It's a fun story.
It is a very fun one. Speaking about implementation, and I know that you have 18 companies right now. Has that been how you have chosen to build the next one or start the next one or purchase the next one or whatever that's been to add on another one, is to make sure that you have, this one going well and you're implementing? What's your strategy when it comes to when it's time to bring in the next new thing or start the next company?
So the secret behind the whole thing is I got tired of relying on other people, honestly. And so every time I would hit a block, I'd hit a wall,
Mhm.
I would find a company that could fix that problem and acquire it,
Brilliant.
right? So
Yes.
now I controlled that problem, right?
Yes.
And that's how I don't need anything outside of my own ecosystem.
Right.
I can service everything that I need right inside of my own ecosystem with my own companies.
Yes.
And that was all purely born out of necessity, because I got tired of the charlatans of the world. And so if you control your whole pipeline from start to finish, right?
Yes.
That's a beautiful thing. I'll give you an example. I have a winery. Shout out to them, Ever Good Adventure Wines, up in Colorado Springs,
Beautiful.
and they have a storefront.
Mhm.
Plus, they have the actual winery, the manufacturing, right?
Yes.
And they didn't connect the two, right?
Really?
Strange, right? So the storefront itself served stuff, but they didn't have a policy that was like, hey, no matter what, when people walk out this door, they got 2 bottles in their hand, because
Right.
that's all
Yeah,
you can buy, right?
right.
But the beauty behind that whole thing is when you control from manufacturing
Mhm,
all the way to lips,
mhm.
there's nobody else to count on in the middle, right?
Right.
And that's just the same ecosystem I've created,
Mm,
just like they've done.
yes.
And you can't really go wrong with that, because you know the guy that owns them.
Exactly. Exactly.
So all you can do is chew yourself out at that point.
Yeah. So now that they have figured out that what they have in the backside can also be going out the front side 2 at a time out,
Hmm.
right, that has changed a lot of different flow for them in that process.
Absolutely. You
Just out of
bet.
curiosity, having spent decades in California, and having a eye doctor who owned the property underneath the Hollywood sign,
Mm.
so would grow grapes there. And he would be the one that, as soon as they were picked, he chose to truck them up himself and would truck them up to Napa and then have all the magic done up there. So do you guys do a similar thing then in Colorado, where you have people who are picking, you have the grapes that are ready to go? Are you then making the wine also in Colorado, or is it being, mixed together in different places or from grapes from different places?
It's actually not grapes.
Oh, do
It's
tell.
lemons.
Really?
Hmm.
Tell
Yep.
me more.
So it's made out of a lemon base. So instead of grapes, we're just using
Yes,
lemons, right?
love it.
And it's a neat little brand. It's really big in the the ski resorts here in Colorado,
Of
because
course.
we've got the line is skier P is one of them, and then we've got
Brilliant naming.
and then Snow Bunny's another one.
Yes,
Switchback is another one,
perfect.
and right now they're working on the ladies bourbon,
Oh,
because it's only 10%,
right.
and the derivative of it is skier P. Not I still laugh thinking about
I know.
it. But so then there's oak staves in it, so it's soaked in oak staves, and that's what gives it the bourbon finish.
Of
And
course.
I had the very first taste of it last week, and I myself was even shocked because I'm a bourbon guy. I've
Yes.
got a glass right here.
Yes.
I'm a bourbon guy, bourbon and scotch. I'm rare. I like both.
Yes.
And I was shocked at it actually had a bourbon finish, but not grapes. We don't use grapes. We use lemons.
I am I can't wait to get online and go look because I'm so interested. So you said it's Evergreen is the name of it?
It's called Evergood Adventure Wines.
Ever
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. And
Fabulous.
there's a whole menu of mixed drinks and all kinds of stuff. It's pretty cool.
Well, I love,
Heartwarmer is one of the best though. It's
oh,
called it's called Heartwarmer. You warm it up, actually warm it up in the microwave.
what a
Yeah.
brilliant thing to do instead of
Mm-hmm.
having to warm it up other ways
Yep.
with that. Lovely. So, switching gears a little bit, if you could have absolutely anybody here, anybody at all, be part of our conversation, be listening in, be able to ask them questions. Napoleon Hill was somebody who had a round table of 12 people, and some of them were alive and some of them weren't, right? It didn't matter
Mm-hmm.
to him, but he would sit and have conversations with these people by himself. Yeah. So, in that process, then he got some of the most amazing answers for how he would move forward in life or what he would do. And I'm not trying to move your answer, I'm just trying to put some
Yeah.
pieces out there for the people who are listening in who are maybe a little bit unfamiliar with this whole process of how you can be gaining information from people who are without reading a book, who are
Sure.
who've passed, right, who were transitioned. Who
Mm-hmm.
would that person be, and or people, and why?
So mine is very far different than what you would think for most people. And that would be my interpreter from my last deployment to Afghanistan.
Beautiful.
Um, and he's no longer with us. I won't get into the politics side of it, but
Right.
when we pulled out of Afghanistan,
Mhm.
that crazy pullout that happened,
Mhm.
him and his family got drug on the street and shot.
Yeah.
And I just about had him out. And, I would love to have him here today to share all the good times that we spent over that year together. He
Yes.
saved my life more than once.
Mhm.
And I couldn't reciprocate that. And I have to try to figure out a way to deal with that someday. Try to not choke up over it right now,
Yeah.
but I'd love to have him here today to learn more about his family, because I never met them, and his life.
Yes.
So little different answer than most people would probably give.
It touches a place in my heart. I was born and raised in Congo, the DRC, and my mom was pregnant with me in language school. They go back. I have two older sisters, and in the August of 1964, there was a massive rebellion. Lots of things happened, and the women and children were allowed to leave, but the rebels kept the men. And my father was one of them and kept him for 10 weeks. And there was a small mission pilot who came in to check on them and flew low enough to drop a Coke bottle that had a note inside of it and said, if it's safe, sit down. If it's not, stand. And every single man stood up to say, Burley Law, do not. And Burley couldn't leave them. And so he went ahead and did the wings and came on in and landed, and he was shot and killed. And they tried person to person blood and could not save him. One of the people that was with my dad was a doctor. And the impact of that, I wasn't even born, right? The impact of that on our life has been one of cherishing that family in a way that my parents have reached out to, as they have found family and other people, gone to weddings, gone to all the things they possibly could, sent cards, everything, because the debt can never be paid. There's just something about that, right? And even though Burley knew that he was getting into harm's way, he couldn't see another way. He couldn't leave the men there. So I really appreciate deeply this story that you share about the translator. And having grown up overseas, there are people who truly, truly are amazing with languages. And I think there are people here in the States as well, but most of the time we demand that everybody speaks English. And so we don't find out that they speak 4 or 5 different languages. And to have somebody who's that well-versed, not just in the translation of the idea, but the actual translation of the gestalt, the full meaning of what's taking place, and in being able to give that culturally as well.
Yeah, you bet. That's a great story too.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So, Jason, is there anything that you would like to reiterate before we wrap up our time today?
It's 2024. Just go be awesome. That's it. It's my tagline for everything. Go be awesome.
Yes. Well, we think that you are awesome already and are just so grateful that you've taken the time. And the audience is also just so thrilled that you carved time out of your incredibly busy schedule to be here with us. And we look forward to further conversations and following you on all the different ways that we can, because you are sharing powerful content for free and putting it out there consistently. So thank you for not only doing and being, but sharing as well.
We were born to be human beings, not human doings.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate you having me on the show. Really, seriously do appreciate it. And I always say we all have the same 168 hours a week. Thanks for allowing me to come spend a little with you.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. And we will see you again, Jason. Have you considered how you can today directly impact the economic and social future of a third world African nation? Education Congo is doing amazing work in empowering the youth of Congo by strengthening higher education and providing scholarships. They are truly shaping the economic and social future of the country. Established in the 1950s, Université Protestant au Congo has 5 schools: law, theology, business, computer science, and most recently added a medical school to train doctors for the rural areas of Congo. With a student body of more than 8,000, over 55% are women. Numerous other universities are in formal collaboration with UPC, including Université Paris-Saclay, the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management, the University of North Carolina, Albert Einstein College of Medicine and Songsil University in Seoul, South Korea. This is where you can join. With your support, you can directly impact the lives of these students and contribute to a stronger and more stable Congo. The scholarships provided by Education Congo make a significant difference in enabling students to pursue higher education and become the next generation of leaders, as has already been experienced. This educational investment is a 3-generational personal favorite in my family because of its effectiveness in raising women and men leaders who are positively impacting the economic and social future of DRC. Let's come together and make a lasting impact. Here's the QR code and a link so together we can create a brighter future. Education Congo is a US-based 501c3 nonprofit devoted to a vision of a stronger and more stable Congo, accomplished through strengthening higher education. What an incredible opportunity to be impacting lives. Wow. As we continue this conversation today, there are several things that I would love to share with you. As we listened to Jason Miller talking, he had such depth of thought, having built over 24 businesses on his own since 2001. And as we had that conversation, he was talking about taking what he needed, seeing the next thing that he needed, and then choosing to create or purchase a company that would allow him to have the full stream all the way through. So I'd love to talk about stream with you. I want to talk about it more specifically as constriction and flow. And when I think of constriction, there are several different pictures that come to mind. One is the heart. The heart constricts and then releases, and the flow of blood moves through our body, carrying brand new, beautiful oxygen so that we can be doing all the things that we do. There's another kind of constriction where we think of boa constrictors, right? Things that constrict and then later on release. I think of constriction and flow in so many different areas of my own personal life, but specifically with money. There are times where I get worked up, I get tight, I get concerned. One of those times was, as so many other people did, in 2008. As things were beginning to unravel across the country, we began to, in our own house, be highly impacted by what was taking place economically. And that really gave me an opportunity to start looking very clearly at how I saw our finances, because it was about this time that I felt like I had a boot on my neck in so many different areas of my life. I was struggling with some health issues. I was sleeping for hours every single day. And it was during this time that I went to a book club. And in that book club was introduced for the very first time to Reiki. I'd never heard the word before. And so as I am learning about Reiki and taking classes in it, I'm also realizing that energy can constrict and it can flow. And so I began looking across my life at all the different places there was constriction and flow. And in order for our heart to beat, there needs to be both of those pieces, right? Constriction isn't necessarily bad, and flow isn't necessarily good. It's the balance of those pieces that allows this incredible movement of blood carrying oxygen and all the nutrients to our different limbs of our body. And so as I began to look at constriction and flow in my life, there are times in my life that my calendar was and is very, very full. Like there's not much space to put anything else in. But I don't live at that space all the time. It's a space that I visit. It's a space that I'm aware of. But I also then choose to move to other places where I make sure that I have time to relax. For me, relaxing can mean that I have dirt underneath my fingernails. I love to be out and seeing what's taking place with all the different gardens that we are putting in across the homestead. Another place for constriction and flow in my calendar can also be when I am working very intently on writing. I can block off time and I can be extremely focused during that time. I want to make sure I don't stay in that space so long that I'm completely depleted. I want to make sure that I'm giving myself booking in, putting in, being cognizant about having time for there to be fun and laughter and flow. So, in this, let's talk about money. I see money as an extension of energy and an extension of what we give people in order to receive a service or a product, or it can be the opposite way, that we are receiving from others for a service or a product. There are few times in life where something just happens, in my experience. And so I think about the huge growth that took place in my Reiki business came after one of my very first clients decided that she was going to take a class with me. It was more of a retreat, and there were class parts that were put into there. It was over a period of time, and I wanted to say thank you to her. And so in this space of deep gratitude, I call the number that I think a previous organization that I have worked for as a nonprofit, I think that they have used this particular florist. I call the florist and I am just so excited. And I tell them who I am and that I want to order these flowers and who they go to and all these different pieces. Great conversation back and forth. And remember, it's the first time again that I've called this particular florist. And at the end of this, I share that I would like to say something on the card about Reiki. And she stops right there. And she says, "You do Reiki?" And I said, "I do." And she said something about her daughter wanting her to go see a Reiki practitioner, but that she didn't want to go to the person that her daughter was going to because of how it was at least a 2.5 hour drive there and then back, and it was a full day, right? So she was looking for somebody closer. So I said, "Please take my number, and if you feel so called, feel free to reach out." In this process also, I also realized that she is not the florist that this particular place had used. And yet, out of this, I received some of the most incredible friends for life out of that one phone call. Because not only did this florist become my client and come on a weekly basis, she had other people in her family who would come regularly, and then they told other people who came regularly. And so I saw this incredible trajectory of growth in my own personal Reiki business that was phenomenal, based on me having gratitude, me saying thank you. And again, part of that was what I had learned in this process of becoming a Reiki practitioner, and then understanding that gratitude opens so many doors. One of the places that I really needed to look, and you may find this as well, is at the people in your life who have been highly influential. So for me, my parents were in their early 30s when they had me, and they had grown up during the Depression. They had been impacted by that. My husband's parents were in their mid 45s when they had him, mid 40s, and they had been children during the Depression. And so both of our families were highly impacted by the economic things that happened. Now, I will also share that 3 of our 4 parents, between my husband and myself, lived on farms. And so what an incredible blessing to be able to have food, not have to be eating gruel, to be able to have access to the land, caring for them working on the land, giving them work to do, right? And so in this, my parents, yes, very frugal, very wise with money, but also I grew up with this understanding of when you choose to gift out 10% of everything that comes in, it's just a penny on a dime, as Jack Hayford used to say, that this flow moves differently in our lives. And so not only was I impacted by this sense of you've got to be careful about how you choose to spend or invest your money, there was this other part about generosity and about caring for others. And so as I began in 2008, 2011, 2015, having these really deep conversations internally, I began to look at what I had been taught. So I invite you to look at the people who have been highly influential in your life about money, how to spend it, how to earn it, what that looks like. Were there these expectations that you have to go to school? In my family, that was a huge thing. My parents were both educators, and they understood how education could impact a person's life and give them skills. I personally believe that education is important. I believe that education is not just reading and writing. I believe that trade schools are massively important, not only because there are so many people who are gifted with their hands, and school isn't necessarily something that they go, oh, that's so fun, but also because there is this beautiful need out there for people to be going to trade school, and they can be earning over 6 figures a year, choosing their own calendar space, choosing all of those different pieces. So I just come back again to what were the things that you were told, that you were taught? Another piece for me in this is, what is my own past history with money? What is, if you're in partnership, what is your partnership's past history with money? Because it's not just you, it's not just your partner. There becomes this third entity of your relationship, of the partnership. And so what does that look like? And so just asking questions. There is no desire for shame in this. It is I wonder if I could learn more about how I see money flow in my life. For me, the verbiage is, I'm open to the possibility of seeing money flow more abundantly through my life. What is it that I could do or see or say or mindset that could make a difference with that? And then the third place. So if the first is past or parents, people speaking into your life, second is your past relationship or your past patterns. The third would be your current. Where are you right now in this? And I don't mean just today. I mean over the last month to 3 months or so. How have your spending patterns be, your investment patterns? How have your inflows been? Are you looking at them from only one source, or are you open to having multiple sources of income? I keep hearing that the most successful people have 7 revenue streams or more. And I know that for me, that not only taking a SIA, but also sharing with other people about how incredible these redox molecule, these cell signaling molecules are, how that has impacted my life, that for me is another stream of income. And so in this place of looking at your streams of income, I invite you to look at across the board. Are you looking at one? Are you ready to open up to another one? What could that look like? What makes your heart happy when you consider that? And then what storyline do I want to be passing on to, in my case, my daughter, but for so many people, their children, their grandchildren, the wider group, right? What is the story about flow, about constriction and flow that I want to be teaching other people as well? Something that's been really important for me, and yes, I wrote a book on this, the one about making goals and using Reiki in that process. One of the pieces with that was this idea of taking your calendar and pulling it apart. I do this with paper, 12 different pieces of paper, and I'm labeling all the things that happen every single month, every single year. So I have birthdays in there, anniversaries, things that happen every year, like paying taxes, or like going to the doctor, or twice a year the dentist, whatever it happens to be. Where are those places? But the place that I start with first, the very first thing that I do is I block off the approximate times, if not the actual time, that I want to be with my family and not working on anything else. What are the times that I want to be fully present? And last year I had 6 weeks of that. Is it possible this year for me to have more? I don't know. I need to look at that and make that decision. So for you, what's the very first thing that you put on your calendar? That first thing is going to be the thing that is the most important in your life right now. And then I invite you to do what Harvard Business School for years ago, decades ago, called a gap analysis. Look at where you are and look at where you want to be. So, what is your inflow, outflow now? What's your story with money? What's your story with constriction and flow now? And what do you want it to be? Even if you are perfectly happy with where it is right now, is there a place that you can be investing into the next generation differently? Some people call it legacy planning, right? Some people call it volunteer, but they're very strategic in how they choose to be volunteering with people who are, or places that are children that have the next generation, to be sharing these incredible nuggets of wisdom that you already have. So, in this place of constriction and flow, looking at parents, how they've influenced you, or the people that you have been highly influenced by, looking at your past history with money, not just yours, but also if you're in partnership with others. And that partnership can also be a business. And then looking at your current, how is that going? Is that what you want it to be? And then as you think about what you want your story, as you leave an impression on other people, because people are always watching, as you are living this life of that you have this beautiful gift, what is it that you want to be sharing? For me, I'm going to go back to John Ashraf's in comments in The Secret. I want to come back to his conversations about flow and money. I think that he's onto something there. I also think that this idea of having affirmations, being opened to money coming from multiple streams at different times, but also having a heart that understands that I need to be showing up as I am investing in myself and other people, that I am showing up with my heart open, with full of gratitude in the right place. So I just want to end on this one last nugget that a mentor recently shared with me. She asked me, Sarah, how do you feel when you are paying the bills for the month? And that is a place that got me really thinking for all of the bills. So many of them are on autopilot, right? But how do I feel about that when I look to make sure that everything has gone through? Am I feeling constricted? Am I feeling concerned? Am I feeling like, am I feeling begrudging? Or am I feeling elated, excited that as I pay the utility bill, that lives are being impacted, that that's paying for people's jobs, that good things are happening in the community that I live in as a result of that. So coming to that space of just checking in, looking, feeling, and understanding where you are. And again, this is not about guilt. This is not about shame. This is about loving yourself and taking just a closer look. How can you more fully love yourself to allow the flow to be going through you faster, wider? I'm so glad that you stayed for this portion of Simply Sarah. I am so deeply grateful for you, and just trust that the rest of your day is going to be phenomenal.